Yay.
All right, actually, looks like we are live. There might have been some silence for a little bit. Sorry about that, everybody, but welcome to our Wednesday baseline show. It is February 16th, and we are here with our weekly office hours with our normal baseline gang, as well as some others joining us for the first time. And we're super excited to have everybody here in our live audience, as well as those tuning in. And today we have David Palmer from Vodafone joining us as a guest speaker. So first, I will just quickly give some community updates, and then we'll dive into the interview session. So from the baseline perspective, we've had a really exciting week. From the outreach perspective, we've released our community member starter kit, which allows new members who are interested in joining the core devs, the outreach team, standards, or any efforts can better understand the operations of an open source community and protocol, because it's the first instance for a lot of people of working in an open source world. So lots of questions of which organizations are involved, how the governance works, and things like that. So this starter kit is the one-stop shop for questions that someone would have, and hopefully will involve them joining the community full time. And we're always happy to have new members joining us. So that was very exciting. Anything to add, Mark?
No, I mean, our website has been live for a week now, and we encourage everybody to go in there and play around and take a look at it. There are some areas on there where you'll have to pardon our progress. We're still, baking the last minute details of that. And so, but overall, we got full functionality on the website. And so we encourage everybody to come in and, take a look at it and get involved.
Yes, and today we also released our Battleship blog along with the demo, which is another exciting thing because we have finally squared away our packaging process for our outreach team. So as the core devs and other groups complete valuable work, we'll make sure that there are blogs, demos, and just everything needed attached to make a big deal about the important work being done. So super exciting week. Lots more to come in the near future. Looking forward to it. And with that, we will start our interview segment with David Palmer. So David, if you'd like to kick off by introducing yourself, your current role and experience in the blockchain and other spaces, that would be great.
First of all, guys, thanks for having me on the show. It's great to be among such innovators. I always respect people who have the courage and conviction to turn an idea into something that's real, and I'm really excited about baseline protocol and base ledger. My role, I mean, I've been into crypto and blockchain for a number of years now. Started out Bitcoin mining, was very heavily into Solidity, programming smart contracts on Ethereum. My current role is leading blockchain for Vodafone Business. And one of the platforms you'll soon hear about that has a blockchain associated to it called the Digital Asset Broker for Vodafone. But I've also been involved with other platforms, which have DLT blockchain technology to it. So that's why I sort of talk about global platform innovator. It's just because I've been involved in the evolution of platforms, and I'm also dipping my feet into the enterprise space to help lead sort of blockchain innovation in that space as well.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'm also wondering what you know about Baseline, or if you've had some time to dig into it, and what interests you about it, or what you think.
So excited about Baseline. I like I think it is a protocol that is a protocol, meaning it is about how systems speak to each other. So I like the fact that it's about synchronizing system states across systems, including sort of what we call legacy systems or ERP systems. I like the fact that in theory, sensitive data doesn't need to move across these systems, but it's sort of acting as a middleware layer. I like the fact that it links to that there's the option of having the base ledger, and that the base ledger, it's kind of like a layer 2. It has rollouts, but it also brings some efficiency. And then also I like the application of this, which is about, which is primarily about data, right, and system states. I'm interested to see which applications are built and which use cases will be launched going forwards. But from what I see now, really excited. I think is addressing a part of the market that hasn't really been fully addressed in a big way. So yeah, excited and really exciting to get into some deep conversation with you guys today.
And going off of that, can you share some use cases or processes in your experience in your job that you could see Baseline directly applying to?
Yeah. So if we look at where the world's going, right, we start looking at the direction. The world is no longer talking about protocols, right, and neither should it be, right? They don't care. What they're talking about is use cases, solutions, and that is increasingly, since October last year, being framed in something called the metaverse, right? And we know that the metaverse doesn't fully exist. We know that there's a lot of hype around it at the moment, but essentially what it's talking about is putting a different framework on a virtual world, right, with immersive experiences, where people will have, things that they're doing in the virtual world represented in the real world. So I buy land in the real world. Maybe I have an NFT that gives me the rights to something in the physical world, and stuff I buy in the physical world could be represented virtually. Just today, we saw the announcement of JP Morgan opening the first bank in the metaverse. What does that mean? Well, there's a JP Morgan icon on there and a link to what they think the metaverse will be in terms of opportunity. But all of this is about data, right? That's the point I'm making. So you have a connected person. That person is connected in the physical world where they can have interactions with physical people and physical things. But also digital twinning means that person and their data can have a digital presence, right? That data needs to be connected. The data is held on different systems. The majority of that data is held on legacy systems. And that is where I see Baseline Protocol playing a role, because essentially, the problem will be how you get right to data, how you keep data secure, how you link data to system states, how you synchronize that. And it's all about data. And a lot of what I see you tackling is a precondition for monetization of data. I don't know if I'm making sense, right? But that is my sort of observation.
Thanks for sharing. Any questions or comments from the group based on what David just shared with us?
No, I think it's a great thing what he was talking about as far as how to pre-monetize it. It's really interesting. We just had an example 3 days ago with the Super Bowl, where Coinbase decided to put that traveling screensaver QR code that went around.
The QR code, and they had a huge.
And what did people do to scan it? Go grab their phone, walk up to the TV, and made it happen and stuff. And it was so popular that it crashed their system within less than a minute. So they should have done a little bit of more risk management as far as their hyperscaling, because they said they were trying. Huh?
Bad planning.
Well, just incomplete planning. I mean, and they failed to actually plan for that. And so when it came to the hyperscaling, but it speaks to when we start looking at moving into the Web3 and the metaverse, the phone is going to be the key component of it. Everybody's going to have their credentials on it. They're going to have their hardware wallets on it. They're going to have everything. It's all going to be right in there. And endpoint security is going to be paramount, but also the process. If you have a whole bunch of people coming in at the same time trying to access the same application, you're going to have some problems, as Coinbase found out. So again, and it's one of those, we need these types of mistakes to learn from. I mean, and the bigger and visible and more impactful they are, I think, the better that is. The pain you're going to feel immediately, but the utility is going to really kind of take over that pretty quickly.
Hey, David, thanks for joining today. I'd love to get your perspectives on how you see zero knowledge proofs, programmable privacy being applicable for Vodafone, you guys are very heavily involved in IoT and the edge. What are you seeing from a response from a call to action to look for new ways to secure these valuable digital assets and the access to them?
Yeah, I think it's massive. I mean, the sum of IoT is security, right? The edge increasingly plays a part as we want devices to do more and more things. So first of all, I'll say that one of the things we've got that we're looking at, obviously, is that I think there's over 30 billion IoT devices in operation at the moment. It was supposed to be 70 billion by 2025. I don't know if we'll get there, but I know in the next 5 to 7 years, we'll probably hit the 70 billion mark, because I'm expecting to see a big multiplier effect of sensors and other connected devices. But the issue you've got is, I think 70% or 75% of the data from these devices aren't used. So these devices are connected, they're generating data, nobody's using it. The second thing is that even if they could use it, so even if there was data produced by a device, for example, that could impact the journey that a logistics or a fleet company was taking, there's no real solution for selling that data near real time, right? Because of course we've got issues about who owns the data. We've got issues around sensitivity of other data, personal data, and these are the problems with the IoT data security and the data economy and monetization. So basically, what we're seeing is an opportunity to unlock monetization in IoT. A key enabler for that is security, identity, and how data can be shared securely peer-to-peer across devices or to marketplaces in a way that doesn't compromise privacy, in a way that respects sovereignty and ownership of data. And I think we have the tools in some of the Web3 technologies to enable us to do that. And it's interesting that I think Mark, or I think it was Mark or yourself, Charles, sort of mentioned the importance of the phone number and the phone as being the middleware of the metaverse. I mean, that's something I've been saying now for the past 3 months. I think it is the bridge. But I also believe that in data, it will play a role as well, right? I think number one is it's an identity form that we have that is scaled. I think we were mentioning before, self-sovereign identity, great idea. Problem we have now when we're trying to implement solution is nobody's on it, right? Show me an ecosystem where you have a lot of, any significant number of people on self-sovereign digital identity solutions, verifiable credentials. It doesn't exist. I think the biggest initiatives we have are European Union looking into that, but we don't know the timelines for it. I think the US are looking into this, some local governments, but it's not really there yet. So coming back to your point on zero knowledge proofs and edge security, I think edge security we can help with because we are developing solutions to leverage PKI in the SIM, secured by a secure element in the SIM, so that can be signed. But in terms of zero knowledge proofs, there's some dependency on having a DID for devices and verifiable credentials and a ZTP means of pinging that, which doesn't exist at any scale in any ecosystem at the moment. I can say that if you watch this space, there will be an announcement from us soon which speaks to that. Right? So we have done something on it, but we will need the support of wider communities to build that ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean that's the key to it is you need the participation and the adoption to drive any type of standard or any type of new technology. I'd love to get your perspective when you're talking to some of your customers. Like, do they recognize and acknowledge kind of this brave new world, or are they afraid of it? Do they call it, just something that's not real? What is the sentiment of your customers when you're talking to them about these progressive nascent technologies?
Yeah, I mean, I can't really speak for the Vodafone customer base. I can tell you about my observations, so sort of in the space, speaking to different parties. What I can say is that there is a big thirst and a massive movement for the opportunity associated with these technologies now, rather than seeing it as a threat. So I think back in 2017, 18, and this seems to move with the price of crypto, right? And to be really honest, but crypto winter 2018, nobody wants to touch it, right? You're looking at it and you're looking at internal type cases. I think now, especially with every day, you see a different bank accepting crypto, a different big institution investing in this, in the crypto or blockchain space. A lot of people now are scrambling to say, okay, what is the opportunity for this? Right? Where do I fit in? How can I participate? So I think there's an excitement. I'm not sure if there's clarity on how to participate, because of course, a lot of businesses were built on control points, right? And barriers to entry in the industry. So, what Web3 essentially does is removes a lot of those control points. So a lot of businesses will have to reinvent themselves. But the opportunities, I think, outweigh that. And you're seeing a lot of businesses now investing in blockchain technology, crypto, NFTs, massive interest in the metaverse. So I'm seeing this excitement, and it's almost like the gold rush, right? So we could go back and imagine what the gold rush was, or the oil rush was, or other sort of significant booms we've had with these industry revolutions. I think we're at one where you've got a unique point where you've got key technologies, 5G, blockchain, tokenization, AI, all these things coming together at a significant time, which can give rise to Web3 business models and customer experiences. And you've also got a period where, after, well, I won't say after COVID, but the COVID has sped up digital transformation and adoption. And you have a unique set of circumstances where, the thirst for transformation and digital is through the roof. The investment is there. And I think that those are the ingredients where we can really see what we call the next industrial revolution, which I think is happening before our eyes now.
Especially you're seeing that right now within the push toward connected cities and mobility, where people can consume ride sharing services, unlock their post office box, everything all done from their phone. And, the big challenge right now is, to be able to have the users consume all these different services, but they want to pay for them in a single transaction. And so that involves a lot of orchestration of the APIs of the different, sources that are providing these. That's probably, I think, the biggest, steepest mountain that everyone's trying to climb right now, is to try and tie all of this together so that the user can consume this in a single transaction. Else, otherwise, it's not going to go anywhere.
Exactly. I mean, if we look at the facts, you've got over 6 billion. So out of a population of 7.9 billion people, around about 8 billion people, over 6 billion of them have smartphones, right? So bear in mind that some of those will be the older generation, some will be children. 6 billion smartphones. So it's very, very clear to me that if you want to get adoption for anything, that the touch point for that will be the smartphone and connectivity, right? Everybody needs to be connected. That smartphone is the gateway. Eventually, I see connectivity being built into AR, VR goggles and other devices. But at the moment, you're absolutely right. The smartphone, is key. And I also believe that the security and trust that we have with the phone number, with the encryption and cryptography we have on the network, which scales, is what we've got now, right? So where you're looking at adoption of digital identity, let's start with the phone number. We're looking at verification of people with biometrics, and private, which is a precursor for private keys. Yeah, let's start with the phone, right? I think you're absolutely key that it's a key enabler to Web3. I believe as well in what you're saying when you're talking about over the top and shared economy. It's interesting that another stat, I love stats, right? But another stat is that I remember going in to speak to one of the big automotive OEMs, and I started giving my speech on the economy of things, and I said, 90% of the time, cars are in the driveway unused, and it's the second most expensive asset we buy, right? And they said, yeah, it is the second most expensive asset you buy, but one of your statistics is wrong. It's not 90% on non-used or underutilized. It's 95%, right? So a lot of the Web3 technologies that we have coming up, where you start allowing people and things and devices to trust each other because they're on a blockchain, because there's immutable ID, because they can share credentials, because those credentials are verified, actually give rise to the opportunity for automation, but more importantly, the opportunity to even go further for utilization of resources, right? And if you think about the future where you have driverless cars, you won't have somebody with a smartphone in there. But if you have a device or a car and a charge point that have IDs that are on the same blockchain or a trusted blockchain, and they have a wallet and an identity connected to them, they can transact, right? And that is the future of what I think is Web3 automated transaction.
And going off of that, actually, I attended a event this morning through Moby and MEF for the passport to the new economy of movement. And it was really relevant to what you're saying about these cars and these networks. Parth, you're with Moby. Do you have anything you want to add?
Hello, everyone. Yes, we are doing the pilot for basically seamless movement for mobility service providers. Basically, what I think Mark mentioned about earlier, one-stop shop for a user to use different modes of transportation. So yeah, I mean, at present, it's like work in progress. We are making some progress every day, but yeah, we'll have probably by end of this year, we'll have some functional prototype.
Super exciting. Can't wait to see it.
One thing that I've really seen a lot of, especially within the past 2 years, and the pandemic, of course, definitely was the wind behind the back on that. But you're starting to have more people trust the device. I mean, the human to the device thing, rather than forget what happens, who you're interacting with on the device. It's, do you feel confident enough, with the device? Because I can remember when you had a lot of local restaurants, fast food places that had mobile ordering apps, and they encourage you to put a payment method on that app, and people are like, I'm out. I'm not going to do that. I don't trust that device. I don't trust that security as much. And that was 3 years ago, and people were pretty adamant about it. And now everyone does it. I mean, with DoorDash and Uber Eats, I mean, all of that is going to have a stored payment mechanism. And before, people didn't want to do that. And so it's really kind of, you want to look at, the technology, but also the human interaction with that. Do I trust this enough, that I will put my credit card information on that so I can store it in a wallet, and I'm fairly confident of the security of that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, actually, and I share what you're saying. I mean, I was in one of the African countries recently, and I didn't carry my wallet, right? And they're saying you got to carry your wallet. I only use Apple Pay and Google Pay, right? I don't need it anymore. I pay for everything. I can't remember the last time I used cash. So you're absolutely right. That transition has happened. I think it's going further though. So what we're looking at now, and again, there'll be an announcement soon, is actually going further than that, and allowing people or organizations to put a payment credential in a device, and via smart contracts and certain conditions which are programmed into the logic to allow that device to pay on their behalf for certain things, so charging, selling of data, etc. So that is going further, because then organizations can trust the device to such an extent that, for example, for fuel cards, you can start to look at managing fuel cards which are associated with a car or an EV, and associating people to that based on their credentials, and not having to manage and trust a load of people and issue them with credentials. You can actually get the credential right to the device, which is going to do the transaction. And then that comes back to the point we were raising about this massive lack of data opportunity. We talk about data, but how much of the data we produce is actually used for everything, right? There's so much money spent on storing data. How are we using it? So we know some of the social media companies are using it, and they've got algorithms running to it. But main business, maybe not so much, right? And there's some data that only has a value near real time. But if the device has a payment credential, and it essentially is a point of sale, and it can buy and sell that data under certain conditions, that's a whole new market. And I think that's part of what we call the economy of things. I think the economy of things is the industrial layer of Web 3.0. I also believe it needs to have a blockchain DLT component to it. I believe digital IDs are key to it. I think it's going to be very exciting, but there is a shift towards this sort of use case.
Yeah, I think you guys are talking about an interesting concept that's somewhat provocative in the blockchain circles between trust and trustless. I'd love to get your perspectives on where you see the benefit to the mobile communities for both, because in the example you just described, you need to have trustless access to the information to validate that people are who they say they are. But yet, in the example of the charging station and allocation of that, trusting that data, but still having the permission-based mechanisms to manage who has access to certain capabilities is still relevant. How are you taking that into consideration today?
Charles, that's an excellent point. So at heart, I believe that we are heading towards a public sort of blockchain space, right? And I believe that the permissioned access to data and to ecosystems is a halfway house. It's a necessary position between centralized and decentralized. But that's how we're approaching it, right? So it's a necessity to have some control in the beginning. But I believe as things mature, you can go towards a sort of more trustless model. But I think this is I think this is the key point, though. That maybe we're learning through the years is that it's one thing to come up with an ideal, and this is ideal. I don't know, same for your, but most of the decentralized systems still have APIs, right? So you're still having to go to this central API-based system, and you're going to have to trust something in the center at the beginning. I don't believe that's where it will end up, but that is a position of where we are. I believe some of the regulations will take us more in that direction before it takes us in the other direction. And I think that's how you get the momentum to start some of the transformation that we need. So you're absolutely right. You need to have maybe some permission, maybe some of the consensus protocol needs to be channeled to begin with, just to get people comfortable. But just like the example you mentioned with the payments, people are apprehensive to begin with. Once they get immersed into it, then they'll go all the way. And I believe that's what will happen in this case as well.
Well, and you're also adding other data attributes when you start, using a mobile centric, because that puts location data right with whatever you're going to do, because whatever it is you're transacting, something that, a computer screen can tell you, yes, you're in this room of a building maybe, but whenever you're consuming something, with a mobile device, you're going to have that location data packaged in with whatever transactional data you're going to have. So you're adding on different additional data points by adding this, which I don't think is a bad thing. But it's one more thing that people need to account for. And, when you're starting to work on the middleware systems, that you are going to have this, new actionable data with location too.
Absolutely. And when you start pairing that with location of the device, location of the transaction, location of the person, you've got some metrics there which are maybe giving rise to new business models, right? New monetization opportunities. Mm-hmm. Pretty powerful.
Yeah. One thing is that, a lot of people have seen some information or some interest in is, when it comes to managing your credential, you can decide how much of that credential you want to share. If you need to prove, like, say you want to gain access to a club or buy, an alcoholic beverage and stuff, all you need to do is prove that you are of the legal age. You don't need to say anything else. You don't have to.
Yep.
I don't need to give you my date of birth. I don't need to give you my address. Anything that would be easily readable on a driver's license or a passport or something like that. All I need to do is prove to you the threshold, and anything else, you don't care.
That you're over 21. You don't even have to actually prove your age, just that you're over 21.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's zero knowledge proof. I mean it's
right.
And verifiable credentials. It's the way forward. And then actually, if we look at it, I was thinking the same thing. Right? I traveled recently. I had to show a paper driver's license to rent a car. I had to show a paper passport as my identity. And you're thinking, well, what is this, right? Well, this picture and a signature. Well, what the hell does that mean? So in today's digital world, right? Because at some point, that credential and the acceptance of it needs to be digitized anyway for the workflows at the back end to work. So we seem to be at a hybrid where we're caught between the Victorian sort of paper-based proof system and the digital proof system. And my view is that the digital proof system, well, it will win, right? And why can't I use my private key to sign a mortgage application? Why can't I use my private key to sign for a transaction for renting a car? Why can't I use my private key, i.e. my digital signature, in the real world for real world things? And when you start doing that, you've got a whole new era of automation of processes, which are, to be honest, archaic. A lot of the processing and the times that we see now are based on lack of trust, right? Because, is that person who they say they is? Do they earn as much as they say they do? Did they work where they say they did? Right? And a lot of the jobs that we have now and the processes are based on checking things. Is that the device the device? Is it owned by who it is? Has that car done the mileages that it has? But the minute you start getting into immutable data, verifiable credentials, which are tested and verified by the right authorities, you get into a whole new area of automation. And I believe it's going to change a lot of the queues we have at borders, a lot of the queues we have at shops. I mean, I think Amazon Go is an example that is showing us essentially what we can do on steroids with verified credentials. Why can't I just walk into the store? The store knows who I am. I've got my phone. They've got the location. I pick up a good. That good has a smart label in it. It's associated with me, and I walk out, right? And once I walk out, I've either rented it or I paid for it. The money automatically changes hands from my wallet. Renting a car is the obvious one. You just go up there, you have your identity, they check your credential, you've got a credential to drive the car, it's valid, it hasn't expired, you drive off. Passport, same thing. You go there, straight away, they just check your passport credential, you just walk through the barrier, right? And you only have people and processes where there's an exception. And I believe that is going to be the key changes to user journeys, customer experience, digital experience, and business models going forward. And there's a mass of things to be done, but it's going to be a seismic change.
Yeah, wholeheartedly agree. And I think you touched on something that's interesting. Coming back to the subject of data and the sheer amount of data. Amazon's able to pull together some really unique experiences, such as Amazon Go, if they're able to take complex functionality and integrate that onto a single data model and a common taxonomy. But when you look at like the average enterprise that has over 2,000 enterprise applications with a landscape of different taxonomies, databases, and structures, the real power that I think we all recognize with zero knowledge proofs and the state synchronization is to simplify the use of relevant information without having to assemble them into a single repository and a single data model. I think that's where these types of experiences can start to flourish without having to rip and replace or bet on one common architecture and one common data model.
And we there, Charles, described what really excites me about baseline protocol and base ledger. It's massively important to empowering and making real the things I just described. And these are the things that have been hindered by lack of digital identity adoption. lack of trust in moving data around. But when you actually think of moving to this sort of credentials-based, trust first type business models and customer experiences, it's all about the stuff that baseline protocol does, right? And that's why I think it's going to be a game changer personally, because it can enable these things. And because enabling these things will give companies competitive advantage, superior customer experiences, and give rise to totally new business models, new ways of operating, new way of experiencing things, and cost efficiencies as well, because you don't have, a non-trust first based business model. You've got a trust first business model. If you trust first, then that's automated, and you only need people and process and costs to manage the exceptions. And that's what really excites me.
Phenomenal. Well, we certainly appreciate your contributions and your thought leadership. Thanks for joining us today. This is awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
No,
and we have a few questions in the YouTube chat for you. So Johnny asked, from your experience, is this a bandwidth intensive application? For example, can this IoT blockchain application work over NB IoT and LoRa?
Yeah, so yeah, LPWA, of course it can, because a lot of the encryption we're using is low power. So we have symmetric key encryption as well. The identity, we've got different ways of connecting SIMs and devices based on the type of SIM that it has. So the answer is yes, it does work over LPWA as well.
Awesome, thank you. And we have
LoRaWAN is a different discussion, but I won't go there.
Awesome. And we have another question that says, apart from IoT, what kind of use cases do you see base ledger being applicable to?
I think it's applicable. I think we can only begin to imagine the use cases, because it's all about data, and making data available to business models in a trusted way, linking to zero knowledge proof and verifiable credentials, can tackle basically any consumer or business use case. So I would say all of them, but I think maybe the challenge for baseline protocol will be to pick the ones that will get the ecosystem moving and get the adoption going early, and to choose whether that is going to be B2B, business to business, or business to consumer, or consumer to consumer, or whatever. You have to pick the sweet spot, but yeah, it can support a huge amount of use cases from what I see.
Awesome. And we had a question on Twitter that was asked that said, hi, David. Paul Brody often talks about potential in enterprises adopting decentralized systems and decentralized operations. How challenging do you think it will be to convince and explain to enterprises to give up their direct control of these systems and trust on-chain automation?
Yeah, I think it's a process, right? So I think it's a brilliant question, and it's part of what we see as digital transformation of the enterprise. So of course, and I think Charles hit that when he said, do you move from permission to non-permission, trust to trustless straight away? And the answer is no, right? So no enterprise is gonna give up everything and go to an open decentralized system straight away. But I think the beauty of where we are is that you've got the middle ground, right, which is permissioned, with some control. And let's remember as well that a lot of these organizations and enterprises have huge ecosystems, right? That we just mentioned. There's over 6 billion mobile subscribers with smartphones, which is absolutely huge. So I think it's a journey. It's part of a transformation. And I think we'll start to see a lot of enterprises start to play or incorporate decentralized technologies into their systems. But the full transformation will come when the economic and financial incentive is there. So that is where the decentralized systems are scaled and trusted and have the ecosystems that will incentivize these businesses to give up something to go there. I don't think we're there yet, right? So I don't think we're there yet. But the process has begun. And I think, again, things like Base Ledger and other layer 2 solutions are helping. We obviously have the recent improvements at London Fork for Ethereum, etc., where we're starting to look at how we scale, right? But for something like IoT, where next 5 to 7 years, 70 billion IoT devices, right? So roughly 10 times the human population. They start transacting, they start looking for consensus on a blockchain. We're not ready. So it will take some time for the transformation to happen. But I think the important thing is it's begun.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. And I think what's so unique about Baseline, and we often discuss this, is that it uses such minimal blockchain. It's actually it's advised, but it's not required for baselining. And really the only thing that the blockchain is used for is for storing proofs. So it makes it a lot easier to share the story and explain it to someone, because you can leave the story of blockchain out altogether, as it's pretty technical detail that only an implementer would need to understand.
Exactly, and I think that those are essential things. I think with baseline protocol, base ledger, I think it's slightly different because very few companies are actually monetizing data. Very few companies are actually able to use their data in an efficient way outside of some very limited record keeping and feeding into customer experience. So I think that the opportunity there is very clear, and that's why I think I think that there's something there that will lead to some adoption, but it's not the same for all blockchain technologies and protocols at the moment.
Well, and another aspect that comes out of that, when if you look at it from the user experience, you got to say, hey, I'm giving up a lot of data right now, and I realize I need to provide that in order to complete the transaction. But when I'm done, I want to invoke my right to be forgotten, and I want whoever was facilitating this exchange can then basically wash their hands of me and my counterparty. And go away. And that is one thing that, in driving the adoption, I think you can put out there and saying, you now have control. Before, you're not just some, passive, just exuder of data. You can now, control what it is that you're going to share.
Absolutely. And control is a precursor to being able to share in the monetization as well.
The exploitation economy is here. To your point, David, there are only a handful, right, of companies that are really monetizing that data. Other ones are like sandwich shops that are selling your point of sale information with your mobile number to like other third parties, like online gaming companies, right, that to try and get you to play Tetris online. So at what point do we say enough is enough that says, look, give me something that's relevant to me? Just because I like your sandwiches and eat there a couple times a week doesn't mean that I'm going to go online and play blackjack, right? How do we fundamentally put that genie back in the bottle?
No, I agree. And I think SSI is the way to do it. I think baseline protocol is the way to do it. But also, sharing data with multiple people, the same data again and again, is also not a great experience, right? Because often you have many people collecting the same data for access to a service or a payment, and you're having to enter the same data again and again. It's not a great experience. I think there's just a simple efficiency and a convenience with having, a digital identity, self-sovereign digital identity, and verifiable credentials, right? It just make your life easier. I mean, how do you keep passwords to all the systems and credentials to all the systems that we access now? It's crazy.
Well, and that's a huge problem with online retailers, because when it goes to with the checkout function, a lot of them will say, well, you haven't logged in for a while. We need you to re-log in. And people are like, I don't remember my password for this particular site, so I'm just not going to do it right now, because it's now a pain in my side. So I don't want to, have to do it. And so you have an abandoned online shopping cart, which online retailers, it's a very persistent problem, because while it is in someone's cart before checking out, you can't sell it to someone else.
Exactly.
And so if you have this abandoned shopping cart, it creates a problem, not only, in lost sales, but also in just warehousing and allocation for whatever good that you have.
No, absolutely, absolutely, and again, this is where digital ID and verifiable credentials can help for sure. I mean, I think some of the things we didn't discuss, and I know we've run out of time, is NFT. I think that's a big part of this, and I think it's a digital ownership. I think there is a way to link NFTs to data. There's a way to link NFTs to digital ID, for ticketing, other things. So I think that's an area that we should watch. I believe also that we're moving to a world of wallets, not bank accounts, but a world where people, organizations, companies will all have wallets, and with those wallets linked to smart contracts, verifiable credentials, and IDs. That there's a new world of commerce that will be born. We've talked about the economy of things. We've talked about the digital ID. We've talked about data. I believe the metaverse is the framework that brings this together. I don't believe we're there, but I believe it's a useful framework to start focusing on the product, on the digital experience, rather than the technology.
And we have one more question that was from Samrat, but he's unable to unmute because of his mic. So his question was, what change do you see in tech to enable the experiences which you described if those models were to be implemented for the next million people?
Yeah, so I think it's scale. So I think the tech's there. But if you look at things like the metaverse and all the rest of it, you don't have the processing power to have a lot of people collaborating in one place at the moment. So you need scale there. I think connectivity, there's scaling, but 5G is obviously important. And I believe there's work to be done on layer 2 protocols, so you can have the throughput and the transaction scale on the blockchain side. So I think it's all about scale and maturity. I believe the raw ingredients are there, but it's going to be about scale and adoption, of course. So I also believe that the mobile phone will be a key play to getting adoption, and maybe more integration with that will be the key to growing the sort of blockchain community and associated adoption.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Any last questions or comments for David?
I would say another use case for baseline protocol would be for the people that are manufacturing and distributing and servicing all of these devices, because you have to have a ledger of existence. And now that we're at 6 billion of them, that's a really big, unwieldy ledger. But at the same time, when it comes to warranty aspect of it, repair, replacement, and all of that, how do you keep, these 6 billion, devices allocated for? If there's a product recall, or if there's a warranty issue, which, if it, a warranty is going to be is going to result in repair or replacement. Well, which is it? And that's often at the discretion of the manufacturer, or even the reseller, or even the a third-party warranty service thing. How do you maintaining all of that massive data set? Is something that definitely the manufacturers and the distributors would need to know about. And that's where baseline can actually do, because we don't want to reveal anything other than just the particular state of the device when it comes to a warranty.
No, I love it. I love it. So yeah, let's talk offline, Mark.
Okay, perfect.
Excellent.
Well,
Awesome,
David, the carriers play a really big role in connecting all of us to this brave new world, and in helping all of us participate in this. So, we're really happy to be doing this with thought leaders like you. So thank you for all that you're doing.
I really enjoyed it. I feel like I've known you all for a while. So it was a very comfortable talk. Really learned a lot myself. Really excited about Baseline Protocol, Base Ledger, and hope to come back and talk to you again soon. So thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Yeah, you're welcome to join us anytime you want, and we'd love to interview you every few months and hear what's going on in the Vodafone world.
For sure.
Thank you.
We always love having people that have done actual laps around the track, as opposed to just reading about it in a book,
Yeah, exactly. And we've got an announcement coming out. So I think after that has come out, it'd be good. I can share more than on exactly what we're doing.
Awesome.
Looking forward to that.
Samrat,
Excellent.
well, Samrat, you cannot speak, but Mark, do you happen to know what's on the agenda for this week's baseline show, India?
I don't yet. Samrat is actually kind of cryptic, every once in a while, trying to get those on there to try and, kind of gin up some excitement and stuff. But we're going to be dealing in cybersecurity
Okay.
this week. But definitely, we need people that come in there that have actually done the actual laps around the track, as opposed to just doing a pretty dog and pony show about, isn't this a cool thing? And wouldn't it be great if we had it someday? No, we basically work on the stuff that's actually happened.
Well,
Okay. Excellent.
all righty. So
Thank you, guys.
with that, we will wrap up another weekly baseline show. Thank you all who have joined our call, and thank you all for tuning in. And thank you, David, for joining us. See you all next week.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thank you.